thanks. Now let's turn back to the Beige book data with our economics editor, Michael McKee, joining us once again. And from Berkeley, California, President Obama's former top economic advisor, Christina Romer. Dr. Romer is a professor of economics at Cal Berkeley and a Bloomberg contributing editor. Thank you both. Dr. Romer, let's begin with you. You heard our Michael McKee breaking down this latest Beige book report. What are your thoughts?
I've just taken a quick look at it, and I think Michael's obviously exactly right. It is a pretty uninspiring report. I was just noticing from the Philadelphia district, them saying economic activity continued to expand at a very slow pace. And that, I think, very much confirms what we're seeing in all of the broader, harder data, that, you know, when we get a GDP report on Friday, most of the guesses are going to be it's at 2% or lower. That's just a terrible number, and I think that's sort of what we're reading in the Beige book. We are still growing, but it is at a very anemic rate.
Well, Dr. Romer, does the report then, as Chairman Bernanke had suggested earlier, leave open the possibility for more action by the Fed?
You know, I certainly think it should. I think when you read this, I mean, I thought it was also important what Michael said about price pressures. So we certainly see wage pressures still very subdued. And to the degree that we're seeing price pressures perhaps being more subdued, of course, that suggests that the Fed has more room for action. And every time we get a report that GDP growth or employment growth or durable goods orders are as slow as they are, I think that helps to build the case that this is an economy that needs more help.
Dr. Romer, a lot of people are making the case that much of the reason that companies aren't doing anything, sitting on lots of cash, not moving forward, is all the uncertainty in Washington over the debt ceiling talks. If they solve that, do you think that unleashes a lot of pent-up activity, or are we going to continue to muddle along through the rest of the year?
Well, I certainly do think that uncertainty is playing a role now. I know I certainly feel very uneasy about where we're headed. I think what worries me is we're not likely to get a really good solution to the debt problem. You know, a week ago it looked like maybe the grand bargain was going to happen, and if we had actually done a $4 trillion, debt reduction plan, yes, I think that could have had an important confidence effect and really help the economy. If we just barely scrape by with increasing the debt ceiling, but we pretty clearly don't make any real progress on our long-run deficit, I can't imagine that will do a whole lot for confidence. Obviously, it's a heck of a lot better than default, but it's still not very good.
You just suggested that there might be another role for the Federal Reserve. Is it a mistake to take fiscal policy off the table in this situation for the economy, as they seem to be doing in Washington?
Oh, absolutely. It's a terrible idea to take fiscal policy off the table. I think, from the beginning, the best kind of policy would be to have had some more fiscal stimulus as part of that grand bargain. So fiscal stimulus that was paid for over time, but gave the economy the help that it needed now. I think in my mind, just like in yours, it feels like Washington has taken it off the table, at least for a while, and the Federal Reserve is therefore the only game in town. And that's, I think, part of what puts the pressure on Chairman Bernanke. Someone's got to be watching the economy.
Dr. Romer, that report noted that the housing market did stay weak, and we've been having these reports at least from the beginning of the year that housing continues to be the weakest sector of the U.S. economy. We see that new home sales dropping 1% in June. We got that information yesterday, annualized pace of 312,000, and that's at a 3-month low. At this point, is it fair to say that housing weakness and the jobless number, they're going to continue to be mixed, and we're not going to see any upward movement until that jobs number starts to drop?
Well, I think it's sort of a chicken and an egg thing, right? We're not going to see any improvement in housing until we start creating a fair number of jobs, but it's going to be hard to be creating a fair number of jobs until we see, at least some sectors of the economy coming back strongly. So if it's not going to be housing, we need it to be other types of consumer spending, or we need it to be exports, or we need it to be firms investing. And today's durable goods numbers certainly are depressing in that realm, because it shows firms aren't putting in the orders for new machines and new durable goods. So absolutely, we need some sector to give us some oomph, and that's why, you know, we need some help somewhere from the government, because it doesn't look as though private sector spending is coming back on its own.
Well, the Federal Reserve, Dr. Romer, put a lot of money into the economy, and it hasn't really boosted growth. Might have kept us from falling farther, but we're not going up. So is there a policy the Fed could adopt that would do anything?
Well, I mean, the key thing is, of course, when the economy was headed down, any policies you take don't suddenly cause rapid growth. They first cause you to stop falling and then start to inch up. You know, I think the evidence is strong that what the Federal Reserve has done, certainly during the crisis, but also through its 2 rounds of quantitative easing, has made an appreciable difference. It has absolutely helped to contribute to growth. And so, you know, what options they have now, whether it's a stronger communications policy, whether it's another round of quantitative easing, whether it's at least holding off on how quickly they try to normalize monetary conditions, I think all of those could have a little bit of help. And right now, every little bit helps.
Dr. Christina Romer joining us from Berkeley, California, and Michael McKee, our economics editor, joining us here from the newsroom. Thank you both so much.